As you may know, if you watch my TikTok videos, this will be my last post in 2023. The reason I will tell you at the end of the video, so make sure you watch to the end to find out why this will be my last post. Now, to finish off 2023, I want to do a SWOT analysis of my failed social enterprise, that is A-Leaf. And I say failed in inverted commas because it may come back. But I'll do a SWOT analysis and explain why I believed up until probably this year that A-Leaf was the best opportunity for securing a human rights based approach to community development, to a circular based economy, and to a well-being based economy. But so yeah, make sure you watch to the end of the video and find out why this will be my last post in 2023.
Like, subscribe, and click the bell to get notifications when I post.
To clarify for anyone that doesn't understand what a SWOT analysis is, it's basically a situation where I look at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the potential threats to my social enterprise that was A-Leaf. So, yep, just sit down, relax, grab a cup of coffee, whatever you want to do. Here we go.
Strengths.
So, the strength of A-Leaf was that prior to going back to do my master's degree in social innovation, I had previously done a second undergrad in politics, philosophy and economics. Prior to that, I had spent about 10 years in the Scottish third sector, working with the third sector in multiple forms. So obviously as a member of the Health and Social Care Alliance Scotland, a member of Inclusion Scotland, and a member of Glasgow Disability Alliance, though I'm pretty much idle when it comes to Glasgow Disability Alliance. So after completing my social innovation master's degree, I decided to go and try to set up a social enterprise because I believed that was the best opportunity for creating a situation that created economic growth but also resulted in a circular and well-being based economy. So one of the things that I did after completing my master's degree was to join the Scottish Government's Human Rights Lived Experience Board. I believe this would provide me with the best opportunity in order to create the circular based economy and well-being economy that would result in the Scottish communities having the best opportunity for economic growth. Now, in order to create my vision, I enlisted the help of a fellow graduate, and together we tried to develop the social enterprise that was A-Leaf. Ian had a background in management, which I honestly believed would be beneficial to helping us create what both of us believed was a opportunity for development of local communities and obviously the empowerment of local residents within those communities.
Weakness.
I'm biased, but I don't believe that honestly was a weakness. As I said, from the strengths, I had previously spent 10 years in the third sector and had a really good understanding of how the Scottish Government reacted with the third sector and how the third sector in Scotland was funded. It was for that reason that I believed there was a better opportunity to create a social enterprise that was sustainable and would actually help the Scottish Government save money in the longer run. So, yeah, I don't believe we had many weaknesses. I think for myself and Ian, we had the skill sets in order to develop a social enterprise. If I look back now, after 2.5 years, I believe maybe one of the weaknesses was in leadership and actually getting my vision, my principles, and my values across, and actually developing a actual framework where I could sell the vision. That's not particularly correct. I did actually come up with a framework, and I'll go into that in a different video. But just to obviously to let the viewer know and actually to explain, I come from a background where I have been in the third sector for I think 10 years, but also in the system, having been diagnosed with a brain tumour. So I have a lifelong lived experience of working and volunteering and being a patient of the third sector and the public sector. So therefore I honestly believe that I had enough skill sets in order to actually come up with a very strong social enterprise that would help to develop the Scottish Government's vision that was the Human Rights Integration Bill. And Ian's skill set should have been helpful in actually achieving that goal.
Opportunities.
So I believed that Arif had potential to actually reduce the amount of capital that the Scottish Government would have had to input in order to introduce the Human Rights Integration Bill. The idea was that we could create a wellbeing circular economy that would give people back their dignity and would actually help them to actually become part of the wider community. What we wanted to achieve was to look at communities that had diversity, inclusion and belonging. Now, obviously our communities are much diverse due to obviously a lot of immigration into the UK. So yeah, we already had that. We had the inclusion in regards to what a lot of charities are doing to actually include these communities. But where we failed or where we are failing is to actually have belonging. So what we were looking at is how do you create a circular based economy which includes well-being based economy and how you actually create a community and make everybody feel part of that community. So that is where we believed our opportunity lied. I'll basically just go over the couple of taglines that we had. So the first tagline was that a single leaf cannot make a tree green. A single organisation cannot make a community flourish. So the idea there was that all the all the community must come together. That's all the sort of public sector, private sector, social sector, third sector, fourth sector. We must come together to work together, and obviously the citizens within that local community must also come together to feel part of the community. So that is kind of what we believed we could do and what EDF could do in order to actually empower local communities. The second one was that, sorry, the second tagline was that a rising tide only lifts all the boats when the focus is on the little boats. Now that is basically mean that you have to focus your economic and social growth on the most vulnerable in society, and that's where we believe we could actually work with local communities in order to empower from the bottom up and not from the top down. So in regard to opportunities, I believe we had them in abundance, and I still believe that there is an opportunity that we can work with the Scottish Government and with local communities in order to develop a version of EASY post the introduction of the Human Rights Integration Bill in 2026.
Threats.
I think looking back now, you can see that there was I can see that there was multiple threats to Elif. The main threat coming from the funding. Now, the funding structure in Scotland for social enterprises is pretty much similar to that of charities. So when we were looking for funding, I made it clear in my funding applications that we wanted to be fully sustainable within, say, a year's time. So all we were looking for was effectively 25 grand in order to put in the baseline and then move forward in order to empower local communities through the circular and wellbeing based economy concepts. Now, what resulted in from there was that the Scottish Government currently provide a lot of charities with the funding to win. Without the Scottish Government, a lot of charities and without the Bid Lottery Fund, a lot of charities in Scotland don't win. Basically, what we were trying to say was this is unsustainable and you have to actually adapt and change. Now, while there is a need for a few charities who are funded that way, the majority of charities who can potentially be sustainable and can generate an income through trade or through services should be doing that. I think what happened in regards to the threat was a lot of, well, not a lot of, but the funders basically looked at it and went, no, this is not how we fund things, and therefore that was a major issue. Now, we could have gone down the private route, however, I want to keep it as a social enterprise, and therefore 50% of our bottom line would have to be reinvested back into the organisation or to the community. Now, you can argue that that is the best option. You could also argue that actually charities kind of do that, but that money is not generated from income. That money is generated from the Scottish Government, so it's just a reinvestment. So yeah, I mean, obviously I could have went down the private route, but therefore I would have been given money back to private investors and not reinvesting in local communities, which was the goal. So yeah, I think to recap, the sort of our three main threats we had was that the Scottish Government or the Scottish funding through the Scottish Government were not able to actually fund what we wanted to do. With my sort of a stubbornness that I want to keep it as a social enterprise and not to do it more as a private based company. And I think thirdly, the idea was that maybe the actual third sector itself is not used to the idea of having social enterprises. I mean, anyone not that's probably doing it, but most people who set up a charity in Scotland don't have a degree in social innovation and don't have the knowledge of how other social enterprises, how other countries operate and how social enterprises within them actually operate too. So I think that was the three main barriers that we came across, or the three main threats I can now look back on and go, having known that before, I could have had the opportunity to mitigate those threats. If you have managed to watch my video all the way to the end, thank you for doing so. The reason I won't post in December is that I'm going to go and update my website over December in order for it to be nice, shiny, moving into 2024. And in 2024, I'll post a lot of content around my journey with fitness and how I use fitness as a way of dealing with my own well-being and keeping my morale higher after obviously the cancer diagnosis, which has had a lasting effect over the last 35 years.